So, last month, Persona 5 pretty much consumed my life. And if I had just one takeaway, it would be that it has the slickest UI I've ever seen.
You never see it come back. You say that my mind is to fast for right.
My god! It's so dynamic, so smooth, so stylish. It's gorgeous. The character is just running through the victory screen. That is so cool. Sorry. So, in honor of Persona 5, I just want to talk about some graphic design. To put it broadly, graphic design is visual communication. Applied to games, it's your menus, UI, camera work, color choice, font choice, animation, character design, your presentation of information. There's a lot of overlap between graphic design and art, but graphic design is about more than aesthetics. Good graphic design in a game is like a good translator, where it seamlessly and stylishly communicates to its players and makes immersing yourself in a game a little bit easier. Bad graphic design is like a bad translation, an obstacle, making it more of a chore to get into and taking some of the shine off a game. I'm going to highlight some great and, well, terrible graphic design in games. But before we dive in, here are some rules. These examples are chosen based on a combination of style and practicality in their design. These aren't ranked, since trying to decide what is the best graphic design is, well, impossible. Unless it's Persona 5. If there's an example that you are fond of that doesn't make it here, post it in the comments. I'll probably do another one of these, so it may show up there. Anyway, first up, a masterclass in communicating game mechanics through visuals. Good design. One of the biggest challenges in many stealth games is a lack of clarity. Too often, whether you can be seen or heard by an enemy is a mystery. It can lead to some frustrating trial and error gameplay. A good stealth game is like a good puzzle game. They work best when you can see all the pieces in front of you, just waiting to be solved. Mark of the Ninja is a game with some very intuitive UI and visual cues to tell the player everything they need to know so they can confidently plan out their moves. In Mark of the Ninja, visibility is treated as a binary system. You are either hidden in shadow or exposed in light. Characters and objects in shadow are nicely defined by white outlines and are fully colored when they're in the light. Even your own visibility is smartly indicated by subtle changes in lighting and blurring effects. Any area blocked by a wall is darker until it's within the player's point of view. Any rooms that you are adjacent to are blurred, and clear up as you peek through vents and doors. Sound in Mark of the Ninja is just as clear-cut. As you make noise, the range of each sound is represented by a ring. The ring's size is dependent on the sound itself. Running will produce medium-sized rings, and louder actions like breaking objects will make larger rings. Every one of your tools is laid out in your HUD. They are also conveyed through icons on objects in the environment like bells or pots. These help make your tools easy to use, which lets you focus on solving the puzzle, rather than being caught up in the game's mechanics. It may not make the game more immersive, or even that much more stylish, but Mark of the Ninja's UI is super practical and makes playing the game feel like second nature.
Bad design.
Now, bad graphic design doesn't make a bad game. Smash 4 is great, but the menus, not so much. Smash 4's main menu represents the thin line between success and failure in graphic design. On first glance, it looks fine, like a more colorful version of the menus from Super Smash Bros. Brawl. But as you start clicking around, you'll notice a problem. The organization of the menu is strange, which makes navigating the menus feel clunky. The menu elements have an inconsistent look, and aside from the giant smash button, there's a serious lack of visual hierarchy. The objects in the menu aren't arranged by their importance. The multiplayer is the most prominent option here, as it should be, but the other options are all fighting for your attention. The biggest offender in Smash 4's menu is right here. Games and More. That's the vaguest title ever. That's like naming the button, here's some more stuff, I don't know. Now, Brawl and Melee had their priorities straight. You had single player, versus, online, vault, options, and data. There you go. The essential categories are nice and organized. But in Smash 4, single player, vault, and options are all shoved into games and more. Other menu items are thrown around at random. Why is Trophy Rush, a single player minigame, not in the stadium option with the other minigames? Why is Challenges not placed in vault or single player? Why do custom moves have to be set in a separate menu and not just on the character select screen? Why is Smash Tour anywhere? Smash 4's UI issues don't stop there. The UI in Smash Tour is chaotic and overly flashy, to the point that it makes the game harder to play. Smash 4's sloppy design is especially strange. The designer worked on Kirby's Air Ride and the last two Smash Bros. Games, none of which have these problems. But with the way the menu is now, it makes finding stuff a total pain until you just memorize it. Good design. Brutal Legend is a game I desperately want to love, but I only like. It's one of those games that seems to be going one way, but then it becomes something else entirely, and it's just kind of eh. Despite that, Brutal Legend has 3 really cool things going for it. 1. The main character is just Jack Black being himself, and that's usually a good time. Decapitation! 2. Exploring the open world and seeing Double Fine's vision of a crazy heavy metal fantasy world is amazing. And 3. The UI absolutely nails its theme. Designed by Joe Kowalski, Brutal Legend's graphic design proudly wears its inspirations on its sleeve. The type, especially on the headers, is very similar to the bold, angular, and gothic typefaces of logos from iconic metal bands like Iron Maiden, Def Leppard, Motorhead, and Black Sabbath. The in-game encyclopedia is presented in a high schooler's notebook. The start of every mission is the cover art of a worn-out album. Every UI element, tutorial, and even certain cutscenes use a distinct illustration style inspired by medieval and Norse woodcuts, which mesh extremely well with the heavy metal fantasy. The interface also has high contrast with the black and white standing out nicely from the colorful landscapes. I love Brutal Legend's UI in general, but the real standout here is the main menu.
You sure you're ready for this? Because what I hold in my hand is not just gonna blow your mind, it's gonna blow your soul.
The main menu is an interactive FMV that goes through a custom-made gatefold album of the game itself. Every option is on a different part of the album. New Game and Continue are in the inside cover, Chapter Select is found in the back where you'd find the track list, Multiplayer is in the record's sleeve, and Options and Extras are the record's A and B sides respectively. This menu oozes creativity, and it also makes a few smart decisions to keep the theme from getting in the way of this menu's usability. In the raw footage, the type isn't actually on the album itself. It was edited in post to allow it to be made in different languages, and the footage is sped up to keep navigation from feeling too sluggish. There is a great behind the scenes video, which I'll link below, that shows the designer working on the UI of the game. It goes over some of the design and editing challenges, like matching different takes, or adding out little mistakes. It's great if you're interested in video editing. Overall, Brutal Legend's menu is one of the more creative uses of FMV that I've ever seen in a game. Bad design. Let's just get right to it. Mario Party 8 is a total eyesore in its menu and UI design. It's functional, barely, but this presentation is just really poor. Here's a weird thing, the main menu is at a 16:9 aspect ratio, but the game itself is shown at a 4:3 ratio. It's jarring and unnecessary. The typography here is some of the worst I've ever seen. The type in the main menu items are off-center. The kerning The spacing between individual letters is uneven in spots. But the biggest issue here is the dump truck of different typographic styles in the menus. Most designers would recommend keeping your different font choices and styles down to about 2 or 3 at a time. The main menu alone has up to 5 different fonts and type treatments. Here, 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 and here. This isn't even the worst example of this in this game. Mario Party 8's typography inconsistently switches between using multiple outlines, drop shadows, and gradients for contrast. Like fonts, it's a good idea to use these effects sparingly on text, but instead, the game likes to use all 3 of these effects at once. Look at the text that appears at the start of someone's turn. The font here has 2 outlines, one of which has an ugly golden gradient, and there's also a drop shadow in between this line and the red fill. This is a typographic nightmare. There's no cohesiveness between modes either. The menus, board game screen, mini game screen, and the results screen all have something unique and terrible in their type. It's just all over the place. Good design. I can't say I'm really into the Dead Space series because I'm what some might call a big man-baby coward, but Dead Space has some nice UI. It's almost like a direct evolution of Metroid Prime's Helmet HUD, where the UI actually exists in the world. This technique is called diegetic UI. In Dead Space, your character's equipment is the interface. The rig system displays your health on the spine of your character with a distinct neon color that changes as your health changes. The rig holographic menus themselves are beautifully laid out, organized, and intuitive with clean and easy to read typography and typesetting. The neon blue is a strong contrast against the rusty and unsaturated oranges, yellows, browns, and grays that are common in Dead Space's palette. I also appreciate that because the UI is physically in front of the character, it makes sense that the game doesn't pause when you dig through menus, which was a pretty rare idea at the time. The holographic design is also applied to your weapons, with your ammo count placed right next to your crosshair, and dotted lines and shapes appear to explain the dismemberment mechanic. The ideas here might seem simple, and visually it might even be a bit plain, but the way Dead Space makes a seamless and useful UI blend into its world is nothing short of masterful. Bad design. For a final bad UI entry, screw it, I'm just gonna go back to Mario Party 8, because, wow. This is just all over the place. And I mean that literally. Nothing really follows a clear grid structure, which is one of the keys to good UI design. Every element here is misaligned or haphazardly placed. Most of the sub-menus are weirdly framed with these checkered backgrounds. The menu elements don't use this framing at all, overlapping the borders. Menu headers have this strange ornamental design that doesn't really relate to any of the other elements. I guess it's supposed to go with the carnival theme, but it's not effective. On top of that, we have this faded black bar with instructions at the center. Character portraits are compressed and awkwardly cropped, and there are a ton of different button shapes and formats throughout the menus with no good rhyme or reason. I'm sure some of you are asking, what's the big deal? They're just menus and interfaces. They don't really matter once you get used to them. And you're not wrong. It's easy to ignore a bad menu, most of the time. Even great menus like the ones in Persona 5 occasionally have the same issues as Mario Party. I mean, you gotta admit, Persona 5's menus are pretty busy. An interface or menu is like a bridge. A well-structured one gets you to your destination with no problem. A rickety one can get you there too, but you'll feel worse about it. I've mentioned a few basic rules, but a UI doesn't have to follow all of them. You need to be careful though. Each rule that a design skips increases the risk of the design totally falling apart. Persona 5 breaks a few of these rules in service of its overarching theme. Mario Party breaks them for no real benefits. A UI designer needs to understand the rules and why they exist if they want to break the rules effectively.